Alright, now we've just about finished up. The only thing left to do would be the charger as well as the battery holder. So the battery holder, all you're going to do is you're going to make sure negative is on the left, positive on the right, and you're going to insert it here. Then you're going to flip it and solder positive and negative connection. It's absolutely critical though that you get this polarity correct, because if you don't, there's no reverse diode or reverse current protection, no diode, so you can blow out a trace on your board or worse. The other thing that you want to do is you're going to solder some pin headers on and connect the charger. It's also a good idea at this point to remove the screen, just so you don't damage it while you're soldering. You may also want to remove your ESP32, it's up to you. So I went ahead and set it down. It'd probably be better though. Oops. So we're going to go ahead and do the board first, since it's a little bit lower. So we need two pin headers, and we need two 1-pin headers. The ones are a little trickier. You might want to just cut those. Okay, I went ahead and fit the breakout board for the battery charger over the pins. I ended up having to separate each pin individually because these aren't the standard spacings. So you're just going to have to break apart each of your male header pins, otherwise it's not going to work out very well. So do that, dry fit it, don't solder anything yet until you get it fit. And then what we're going to do is solder the breakout board, then we'll flip it over and we'll solder the other side. And make sure that you've got the short end of the pins on this side and the long end on this side. And you can trim them down later if you want to, which I would probably recommend doing. So we're going to go ahead and solder these in. Flip it over. You really shouldn't need to do much. Again, you don't want to do this step until after you verify and test the board, so make sure you do that, because it's going to be a pain if you have to go back and adjust other components. Just be careful with your soldering iron while you're getting these things in. You don't want to melt really anything, especially these pin headers. Okay. Alright, that one is in. And you want to make sure it's really only one way this fits in, but make sure your USB is on the outside. You can also line it up. There's a plus and an out written on the silk screen. And double check. Okay, now that that's on, the only real step left is the battery holder. As I mentioned, make sure your minus and your plus are in here. And they're going to fit right in those holes. And then this isn't a problem because there's a gap here. So you may want to just prop something up, or you can tape it. Just got to find something kind of thick enough. And this is one that's pretty easy to manipulate and adjust if you don't get it on just right. That might happen, so you can see it kind of lifted up on me. It's okay. What I'm going to do is just hold the heat here and push it forward. Got plus. You want to make sure you got plus right here. Plus, minus, minus. Now, we take our battery, and you want to make sure you get this correct. This is really the key piece. So you want your plus. Sometimes they have these little ends, sometimes they don't. And your minus. You just want to fit that in there like that. And now the moment of truth. So you got a switch on here. So it's currently on off. Let me hold it correct orientation. So the switch is on off. So if I push it, it's in the charge mode right now. If I push it up 1, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and put my TFT back in. And if I did everything right, should light up and I should be able to do my test sketch. Yep. It is a little dim, but that's because the battery's not charged very well. It's a storage charge, if that. In fact, it's so low that you can't really hear the speakers. But that's okay. Everything appears to be working. Alright, and then if I want to do USB, I want to switch it all the way to the top. So I'm going to put it back in USB mode. Okay, I went ahead and confirmed everything was still working in USB mode, so now I'm going to flip it to the very bottom, which is charge mode. And now I should be able to charge my battery. And all you got to do there is just plug a USB into this. It looks like it's micro USB. So assuming you have a free one available. Okay, before I plug in the USB to test the charging, these things are pretty pokey, so I'm going to go ahead and trim them down a little bit. You can use, probably better to use your flush cutters. So I'm just going to go to the kind of top of that and cut it. Just be careful because they do eject. Okay, so you should see a red light when you have it plugged in. If you do, that means it's charging. Okay, you can also switch to USB mode with the USB cable plugged in. So everything will be powered off of that. So it's all wired into the same 5 volt. And then you can switch to battery mode. That's blue. And then you switch into charging mode and it's red, and it's the same button as off. So I would recommend doing that and just running it, letting it charge the battery up a little bit. And then once that's done, then you can just power it off the battery. Otherwise, you can either power it here through the USB charger, or you can power it on this side. I like powering it there because it gives you a little bit better access to the controls.